In the quiet Yoruba village of Okearo, there lived a young woman named Ajoke. She was strikingly beautiful, with skin that glowed like fresh palm oil and eyes that seemed to see through a person. Her beauty was matched by her hard work. She could weave baskets faster than anyone, fetch water from the stream without spilling a drop, and sweep her compound until the ground looked polished. Ajoke's father had died when she was still a child, leaving her mother, Mama Ajoke, to raise her alone. Mama Ajoke loved her only daughter dearly and often prayed for her to marry well and have a good life. But there was a shadow over Ajoke's good qualities. She loved gossip like a child loves sugar. Every market day, she would wander from stall to stall, pretending to buy things, but really listening for any juicy story she could carry. It did not matter whether the story was true or false. Once it reached Ajoke's ears, it would spread across Okearo before the sun went down. Her two closest friends, Dupe and Ronki, were no different. The three of them were inseparable, moving around like shadows, laughing in corners, and whispering about other people's lives. They would sit under the big mango tree in the village square, calling it their office, where they exchanged every bit of scandal they had gathered. At first, the villagers tolerated them, thinking it was harmless talk. But as the years passed, families began to quarrel. Friendships ended, and even marriages broke apart because of the half-truths Ajoke and her friends spread. Mama Ajoke noticed the change in her daughter. One evening, as they sat outside their small hut with a pot of eco steaming between them, Mama Ajoke spoke gently. "Ajoke, my daughter, this tongue of yours will bring trouble one day. Not everything you hear must be repeated. People's secrets are like eggs. Once they fall, they break and can never be put together again." Ajoke only laughed and said she was just telling the truth, not harming anyone. One day, Dupe began to feel uneasy about their ways. She had watched too many people suffer because of their gossip. That morning, after the three of them had laughed over yet another rumor, Dupe looked serious. "We have done enough harm," she told them. "We must stop this before something bad happens to us." Ronki hesitated, but when she thought about it deeply, she agreed. Both Dupe and Ronki decided they would change, apologize to the people they had hurt, and live quietly. Ajoke was shocked and angry. She called them cowards and accused them of pretending to be holy to please people. From that day, she began to avoid them, vowing in her heart to punish them for turning their backs on her. Weeks later, an opportunity for her revenge came. In Okearo, there was a quiet young woman named Modupiola. She was the eldest maiden in the village who had not yet married. Her life had been filled with bad luck in matters of love. Suitors would come, but for strange reasons, they always withdrew their proposals. People mocked her behind her back, calling her Iyawo Alaigba, the bride without a husband. Then, by the grace of fate, Modupiola met Ayinde, a kind-hearted farmer who had recently moved to Okearo from another village. Ayinde was hardworking and had no interest in gossip. He loved Modupiola and proposed to her. Joy filled her home, and her mother immediately began preparations for the wedding. Ajoke, who never forgot a grudge, remembered that Modupiola had once warned Dupe and Ronki to stop gossiping. She decided to destroy her happiness. Long ago, when Modupiola was a teenager, she had been assaulted by her mother's cousin. The man denied it and spread lies that she was promiscuous. To protect her, her mother had taken her to a herbalist who gave her medicine to end the pregnancy. It was a painful secret that only her mother knew. Ajoke had overheard part of the story years ago, but never had a reason to use it, until now. One afternoon, Ajoke went to Ayinde's farm. She greeted him warmly, then pretended to hesitate before speaking. She told him that Modupiola had a shameful past, that she used to sleep around and had once terminated a pregnancy. She warned him that this was why no man wanted to marry her in the village. Ayinde was shocked and heartbroken. He had trusted Modupiola, and now he felt deceived. Without confirming the story, he stormed to her home that evening and confronted her. Modupiola was confused and stammered in shock. The mention of a pregnancy made her realize someone had spoken about her deepest secret. She ran to her mother in tears. When her mother heard what had happened, she was furious and went to see Ayinde. She asked him who had told him such a thing, and when he mentioned Ajoke, her heart sank. "Ajoke has destroyed our lives," she cried. The news spread quickly. Mockery returned to Modupiola's life, sharper than before. She cried for days, unable to bear the shame. One evening, she walked to the river and never returned. Her body was found the next morning. Her mother's grief was too heavy for her frail heart. She went to Ajoke's home, stood before her, and placed a terrible curse on her. "You will find love and have a beautiful family, but the evil you have done will return to destroy you." Hours later, the woman collapsed and died. The villagers were enraged. They dragged Ajoke to the palace and told the king everything she had done over the years. The king declared that she was a danger to the peace of Okearo and banished her immediately. Ajoke's mother was so heartbroken by the disgrace that she fell ill and died within days. With no family, no friends, and no home, Ajoke wandered from place to place, carrying only the weight of her curse and the emptiness of her heart. Ajoke wandered for 3 days under the hot sun, drinking only from streams and eating wild fruits. Her fine clothes had become dusty and torn, her once perfect hair tangled. She was tired and close to giving up when she stumbled upon the village of Ijaye. At the entrance of the village, she saw a woman in her 50s pounding yam outside a small but neat compound. The woman noticed Ajoke's weak steps and quickly called out, "Come, my child. You look worn out." Ajoke tried to explain, but her voice was dry from thirst. The woman, whose name was Mama Falake, led her into the shade, gave her water, and offered her food. Ajoke ate hungrily, tears running down her face. Over the next few days, Ajoke recovered her strength. She told Mama Falake a story about losing her parents and getting lost on her way to stay with a relative, hiding the truth about her banishment. Mama Falake, who had no children of her own, decided to let Ajoke stay with her. From that day, Ajoke worked hard in Mama Falake's shop, selling palm oil and dried fish in the market. She fetched water, swept the compound, and helped cook. The villagers of Ijaye noticed her beauty and respectful manner. Slowly, Ajoke began to feel a kind of peace she hadn't felt in years. Months passed, and the business began to flourish more than before. Mama Falake, proud of Ajoke, helped her start her own small stall in the market. Ajoke sold ground nuts, pepper, and smoked meat. She was polite to customers, and people soon preferred buying from her because of her sweet words. One bright afternoon in the market, Ajoke caught the attention of a tall, handsome man named Oladipo. He was a successful trader from a neighboring town, known for his honesty and generosity. Many maidens in Ijaye admired him, but he seemed uninterested in their advances, until he met Ajoke. Oladipo began visiting her stall more often, buying things he clearly didn't need. Sometimes, he would simply sit and chat with her until the sun began to set. Ajoke found herself smiling in ways she had not in a long time. One evening, under the large almond tree near the market square, Oladipo told her he wanted to marry her. Her heart beat fast, remembering the curse, but she pushed the thought away. She agreed, and they both went to inform Mama Falake. Mama Falake was happy for her and began preparations for the wedding. But when Oladipo told his mother, Madame Morenike, she was not pleased. "That girl is not from here," she said sharply. "No one knows her family or her people. How can I accept her as my son's wife?" Oladipo tried to convince her, but she refused. Finally, tired of the arguments, Oladipo decided to go against his mother's wishes and marry Ajoke. The wedding was simple but joyful. Mama Falake stood proudly beside Ajoke, smiling through tears. Though Madame Morenike attended with a cold expression, Ajoke focused on the happiness she shared with her new husband. Life became sweeter than palm wine. Ajoke and Oladipo worked together to grow their businesses. In less than 2 years, they owned 3 large stalls in the market and a big farm. Their love deepened with each passing day. Soon, Ajoke became pregnant. She gave birth to a healthy son. 2 years later, she had a daughter and then another son. In 6 years, Ajoke and Oladipo had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. Their home was full of laughter, the sound of little feet running across the compound, and the aroma of Mama Falake's cooking. The people of Ijaye envied them. Even Madame Morenike, though still distant, could not deny that Ajoke was a good wife and mother. But in the quiet hours of the night, Ajoke sometimes remembered the curse placed on her. She would watch her children sleeping and whisper prayers that nothing would ever harm them. For a while, it seemed those prayers were working. Until one strange evening, when the first shadow of the curse began to show itself. Her youngest daughter, barely 2 years old, developed a sudden high fever. Ajoke and Oladipo rushed her to the best herbalist in Ijaye, but the fever would not break. 2 days later, the child died. Ajoke was shattered. She told herself it was only sickness, nothing more. But deep in her heart, she felt an old cold fear. She had no idea that this was only the beginning. After the death of her youngest daughter, Ajoke tried to focus on her remaining 4 children. She worked harder at the market, kept her home lively, and prayed more than ever. Oladipo comforted her and assured her it was only a sad misfortune. But the peace did not last. 3 months later, her eldest son, Adedayo, came home from the farm complaining of severe stomach pains. By nightfall, he was vomiting uncontrollably. Mama Falake called a herbalist who tried every remedy he knew, but before the rooster crowed, Adedayo was gone. The grief in Ajoke's home was heavy enough to choke the air. She could not eat, barely slept, and sat staring at her children with desperate eyes as if trying to hold them in place by sheer will. Then, one after another, sickness struck again. Her second son developed a strange cough that no medicine could cure. The following week, her second daughter's legs swelled painfully until she could no longer walk. Within 2 weeks, Ajoke had buried all her children. The wails from her compound echoed across Ijaye. People began to whisper in low voices. Some said it was a spiritual attack. Others claimed Ajoke must have offended the gods. Madame Morenik, Oladipo's mother, was the loudest among them. "This woman is a witch," she declared openly. "She has sacrificed her own children to whatever evil spirit she serves." Ajoke wept day and night, unable to understand how her joy had turned into ashes. Oladipo, torn between his love for her and the loss of all his children, began to change. He no longer sat close to her at night. His words became cold, his eyes full of suspicion. One afternoon, he traveled to a distant town to consult a powerful diviner. The man listened, cast his cowrie shells, and spoke slowly. "The deaths of your children are tied to your wife's past. There is a curse upon her. The wrong she did in another land has come back to claim her joy." Oladipo's heart was heavy with anger and confusion. He returned home and confronted Ajoke, demanding to know what she had done. But Ajoke, still in shock and drowning in grief, could only shake her head and cry. The whispers in the village grew louder. Then, one market day, an old woman from Okearo, Ajoke's former village, came to Ijaye to sell yams. She overheard 2 women talking about Ajoke's tragedy and asked them to describe her. When they did, she dropped her basket and shouted, "That is Amoy Ajoke, the gossip who ruined families in Okearo. She was cursed by a grieving mother before the king banished her." Her voice carried across the market, and a crowd gathered. She told the whole story of how Ajoke's lies had destroyed Modupiola, leading to her death, and how Modupiola's mother had cursed her before dying herself. The market square erupted with murmurs, gasps, and accusing stares. Someone ran to tell Madame Morenike, who wasted no time rushing to Oladipo's compound. She pointed at Ajoke and screamed, "I warned you. She is evil. See how her curse has killed my grandchildren. She must leave this house today." Oladipo stood silent, but his silence spoke louder than words. The villagers began to throw sticks and sand at Ajoke, shouting for her to leave Ijaye. Mama Falake tried to defend her, but the crowd was too angry. With nowhere to go, Ajoke wandered out of the village, the same way she had been driven from Okearo. Her fine clothes were torn, her hair wild, and her bare feet bleeding. She walked for days, muttering to herself as the words of Modupiola's mother's curse replayed endlessly in her mind. "You will find love and have a beautiful family, but the evil you have done will return to destroy you." By the time anyone saw her again, she was no longer the proud beauty of Okearo or the cherished wife of Oladipo. She was a shadow, roaming the roads like a mad woman, talking to the wind. And so Ajoke's story became a warning in Ijaye and beyond, that the tongue is a sharp blade, and the harm it causes always returns to its owner. This is the end of this story. The moral lesson of this story is to be mindful of the words we speak and the stories we spread, for gossip destroys faster than fire, and the harm we cause will one day return to us. Be watchful of the words you speak about others, for gossip is a seed that grows into a harvest no one can escape. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it or learned something from it, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, family, and loved ones. You never know whose life it might touch, Subscribe to this channel for more true-to-life and eye-opening African stories. Stay kind, stay wise, and remember, the tongue has no bone, but it can break a heart. Remain blessed, and see you in the next story.